Okay, this is just to put this together for members who don't know who we are, what we're doing. My name is Derek Ballog. I have been an advocate. I am not a lawyer. I am not a legal practitioner, and I never want to be, because those people are the ones who don't work for our benefit any further. They are working for the courts, and the courts do not stand under our Prime Minister. I'll explain that in just a moment. All right, this is Sunday's topic. The Supreme Court of South Australia Incorporated. It's a business. It's no different to McDonald's or Telstra or the Commonwealth Bank. This was the court case, the 8th of August, 2023 in Adelaide at Gouger Street in the city. We're going to show you the written statement, which is not finished because of time and phone calls and people calling us up all weekend. I'm going to show you the shell of the document. This is for all the people who are wishing to take this document, and I'll explain to you how important this is. I'm going to show you the open letter, which I wrote with a friend of mine, about the national referendum is now defunct. It's disabled. It is incomplete because of all the problems, including the link we have with Stephen Georgianis, who is a federal member for Adelaide, who works alongside and under the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I'm going to talk about the United Tribes copyright trademark document. This is the document that judge ignored, and she set it aside, meaning she does not respect that document, which is registered as an international copyright in Switzerland. I'm going to explain what that means as well in a few moments. I'm going to talk about the private prosecution charges. This is our last avenue against the criminality of these people to steal our homes, our businesses, and our farms, is to privately prosecute them. My job is to jump on social media, which I'm not comfortable. I don't feel in this space this is where I should be, but I have been told I have to reach more people to say we are standing up, because people are losing properties. In Sydney, there is a figure of 20 properties a day. Every single day, 7 days a week are being stolen by these people. This is an incredible number. Every single day that passes, 20 families are dispossessed of their homes. This is going to get worse. And this is where we are on the 3rd of September. We are Australians fighting for our human rights. I've got to put down this disclaimer because we are being attacked as of even 20 minutes ago. That EFP, myself, my team, we are not lawyers. We do not want to be called lawyers or legal practitioners. We are advocates. We are men and women who are standing up and saying, we have exposed that they are criminal. These people in the courtrooms making the appearance and giving the impression that there is a legal system when there isn't. They do not stand under the King's crown. They do not stand under your Prime Minister. I'll explain that link in just a moment. We are fighting for the last of our human rights. The purpose of today's meeting is one, the written statement of the truth. I'm trying to create a legal document, which I'll explain in a moment, which is you will be putting your name to. It's a legal document. It's equal to your home or car insurance or any other important contract. When you've got it certified by a justice of the peace, this is a piece of legal history because of what is contained on this document. Then I'm going to show you the open letter regarding the national referendum for the voice is disabled. It's broken. And I'll show you how and why we made the argument. Because when they do have a treaty or they have co-opted the First Nations people into the corporate constitution, and I have a video to back it up from Grandmother Malara. She is a law woman, L-O-R-E woman, of the First Nations people, and she's also a law woman under Australian education law with a Juris Doctor degree. So she is on both sides, and she has made the statement, it's broken, it's fractured. When they can bring in the First Nations people, the Albanese administration can then say we are now part of the New World Order. No one owns property, it's gone. That's the problem. And that is happening on the 14th of October in 5.5 weeks' time. I'm going to talk about the United Tribes copyright trademark. I stand with the good people, good men and women who do not want to take anything from you and I. They want this document to be a point that the corporate government in Canberra does not have any right to use any of the native animals or birds, including the Australian piping shrike. The bird on the coat of arms of South Australia has been copyrighted. It's a native animal of this country. It's been copyrighted. I've got the document to give to you. I'm going to include the Northern Territory local court case, which after nearly 13 months has not received a decision. This is why this court case in Adelaide is so important. These documents are sitting with that judge, and she made a decision to break the copyright trademark and to go against all the proof that there is no right by a judge to take a property in South Australia. Then I'm going to discuss the private prosecution criminal charge sheets. We do all the hard work. All you need to do is put down your details and send it off by email and send us a copy so we can keep a track of how many people have actually sent this paperwork in. Our job is to reach as many people as possible who understand we are in a very difficult situation in the next 2 months. This is the truth of the situation. Then I'd love to hear your questions and answers. So let me get straight into the presentation, show you these documents, and then we'll take any questions you have. So we're going to provide you with, as the witnesses to the Supreme Court of South Australia on the 8th of August with a template. It is not complete because of all the things that are happening around us and calls we're taking from every state. We're going to discuss and demonstrate the contents so you can alter or edit. This will be your document, and you can take out, it is your decision, it is going to have your name on it. Or you can leave it as it is to sign and certify with a justice of the peace. At that point, it becomes a legal piece of property, a contract, and someone has to rebut that contract. And that other one is the judge or the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of South Australia. It's a legal document. It's important for this court case and your family. The open letter. Everyone should know we are going to vote in our first national referendum since the 6th of November, 1999, and it's going to happen on the 14th of October this year. That referendum on the 6th of November, 1999, for everybody in this group, I believe you'll remember, Bob Hawke and Malcolm Turnbull said, let's become a republic and throw the shackles off with the monarchy. Every state, including South Australia, voted in the majority to stay exactly where we were. It did not pass. We stayed with the Queen. We stayed with the monarchy. Nothing changed for 10 months until Victoria, by deception, by fraud, made a law to throw the Queen out with the bathwater. That is the beginning of all the problems we are having today. This is a war in the courtrooms and with politics. And it's about destroying our rights, destroying our ability to have a national, free and fair national elections, and to have a democratic right to defend our properties. This referendum is about co-opting the First Nations people into the corporate constitution. It's also known as the Australian Constitution. It's been changed. It is being modified. It is not the same constitution of 1900 that created our country. That's the difference. And that's what we're here to share and talk about. The Indigenous men and women were never consulted about this move to include the original people of this land into English law. They don't want it. They never have been consulted. They don't consign to it. The rest is up to the rest of the country. We do not want to do something which is not going to help us in any way, shape, or form. We have, with our close friend, have written an open letter for anyone to write and demand a copy of the writ, W-R-I-T, for this referendum before we go to vote. I've already said it in public on my Monday night meetings, every Monday, explaining what is happening. I'll be discussing this in greater detail tomorrow. I will not be voting unless they can show me a writ from a legitimate Governor-General who stands under King Charles III, our monarch. And I can guarantee you, I did not vote in the federal election last May. I did not vote in the Victorian state election last November. Why? I said I need to see the writ, and they could not produce it. This letter has been included in the appeal application at the Supreme Court of South Australia to connect Stephen Georganis MP, federal member for Adelaide, to Anthony Albanese MP and Senator Penny Wong, all sitting invalidly in Canberra without a writ. They are going to push ahead with this national referendum vote to bring everything under one political party. If you don't understand, every state and territory on the mainland is under Labor, and they are trying to do one more piece, the national referendum, and Steve Georganis MP is directly involved to exposing you do not have a governor to sign a writ. And I said this to the judge on the 8th of August, and she had nowhere to go except to look behind her to see the royal seal, the lion, the unicorn, and the imperial crown. She was breaking every law because she does not have a governor. Francis Adamson is not your governor. The open letter is for anyone who wants to engage in our political system as we approach these challenges ahead. This letter is our part for our package, which we're giving to people in our people's class action because they've been sacked and dismissed from their work illegally. There is no valid writ to have a national referendum. Then there were no elections for any states of emergency, no lockdowns, no mandates. This is how important this is. The worst kept secret is, I'm going to cross over the Pacific Ocean. Biden has been saying to government agencies to get ready for the next COVID pandemic. We know the name of the virus, we've got the name of the strain, and they're trying to bring this in the next 4 to 6 weeks. It's the worst kept secret. When it happens in America, it'll happen here. This is what we are saying. We don't have time. Each member in this group, you have a right to do this paperwork, and I will give you the letter. I will make sure we have your emails, and we'll give you all of this paperwork at the end of this. Note well, someone in Victoria, I know who they are, have reported me to the ABC, that fine upstanding institution of truth and honesty and journalistic integrity, and have made a statement on my behalf that I allegedly said elections, mortgages, and rates are invalid. The only problem is I actually stand behind every single word. There are no elections, there are no mortgages, and there are no such thing as council rates. There are property tax. And I've got the documents to prove everything on that screen. The First Nations copyright claim. It's now called the United Tribes because this is engaging every one of the First Nations people. This, you need to understand where we're coming from. We are recording this so you can watch this again to hear this, how important this is. These documents reveal the fact that all states and territories and the federal government have stolen the copyrighted and trademarked native animals now owned by the United Tribes. All are using the kangaroo, the emu, the Tasmanian tiger, and all native birds, including the piping shrike. On the South Australian coat of arms, it's been copyrighted. If you take the big yellow arches of the M from McDonald's and you open up a shop, you will see how quickly you will be getting paperwork to go into court for copyright breach. Because this is the government, they are trying to block this, as you would have seen with Judge Bochner on the 8th of August. So they are using it unlawfully without a treaty. This is what the judges are working with the politicians to block us from our rights. This note, this may become irrelevant if the voice is included into the corporate constitution. I'm saying this because I'm trying to get enough people to understand we don't have more than 5.5 weeks. We are including this document and the Northern Territory court case into every case we handle in every state and territory. I'm talking parking fines. I'm talking people who've been terminated from their jobs. I'm talking about people who have been threatened by councils, for non-payment of permits or council rates, and including bank mortgages. Every organization is receiving this United Tribes document. We will get a copy to you. So we've been granted permission to add this included United Tribes copyright trademark document into your package of documents. Angela has included this document into the court and they are ignoring it. But they also want you to also say, or Peter Malinowskis will say, we embrace the First Nations people. We should vote yes for the national referendum, but we disrespect them enough not to deal with their copyright. Let me say this very clearly. The people I'm dealing with could care less about any claim. They've got a claim in the Northern Territory court case, but they don't want the claim. They want the people to vacate the Northern Territory Parliament and the courthouses. That's their goal, because they have been persecuted. I have got horrific stories which have never made it to the media. The Northern Territory local court case is part of a document package that was put together in August last year and still remains undecided 13 months later. There's no decision. And this is what's happened. The pending status sitting on the shelf is in our favor because Judge Bochner made a ruling 1 hour after that court hearing against this court case and against that copyright document. This extraordinary claim is still open, and we're going to exercise our right to rely on this fact. The private prosecutions. We're getting a lot of email from people trying to understand what on earth is a private prosecution. It sounds quite risky. Let me take this out of the picture. We've had people in Melbourne and in Adelaide with Angela's case, and we have been showing people how to fill in the private prosecution charge. What does that mean? If someone like myself goes into a courtroom and says to the judge, you have been charged because you are concealing treason documents, you cannot continue. It's got to go to the Supreme Court of Victoria, the last venue in Australia to have grand jury. And when they continue and they break the laws, we have the right to privately prosecute them. I have always believed if we can get the numbers of 500 or 1,000 people, which is at the moment a pipe dream, because so many people are waiting and sitting back while things are moving very quickly in the courts, we are giving them oxygen to continue to do this because they're going to steal more properties. People are struggling under the fact that they are struggling with interest rates hitting all-time highs. If you've paid your mortgage, you're very fortunate because we're seeing people forced to sell their home for up to $200,000 less than they're worth, only to find a buyer who's coming in to find a bargain. That's destruction on every level of our wealth. So this is what's happening right now. The private prosecutions is to say we are going to come together. We need to bring together people in common law groups and everywhere else, because this is not about one group or another. It's about what's happening in the next 2 months. Our members have written letters into the courts, and we've heard that there was no response, and we are criminally charging them by private prosecution, the CEO and directors of these corporations. Please make no mistake. The Supreme Court of South Australia is a business with an ABN and it pays GST like a business. It is not doing law. It is doing business. This includes Chief Justice Chris Kourakis, Acting Judge Katrina Bochner, and Auxiliary Reserve Judge Peter Norman at the Supreme Court of South Australia. Okay. The private prosecution criminal charge sheet is our right to hold the judiciary and law enforcement and politicians accountable to us, the elector. This 2-page form is ready. I'm going to show you all you need to do. We have completed the details. All you need to do is put your name and details on the page. And when we do so, we are asking you to send us a copy. And then we can keep a track of how many people who've done this. This full document will be shown. I'm going to show it to you just after this presentation. It's all done. We need numbers. We need Australians to say we don't have until next year. They are going to make big changes before Christmas, and it's going to be irreversible. They're going to destroy our certificates of title once and for good and make them all digital. We've got no rights to vote in a free and fair election. And the courts are now saying we've abandoned any sense of practicing law. It's about money. And this is the dangerous place that we're standing. We have the process for the private prosecutions into courts and to corporations from every state and territory. This document is based on the federal statute law. All it means, there's no monarch. There's no king. There's no queen. That's all it means. Let's keep it nice and simple. It has no authority. The only time it has authority is when we go into court and we say, I'm guilty. Then you're giving them permission to go against your Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, who swore and made a new oath of allegiance, a secular oath of allegiance to the King of England on the 6th of May, 2023. Every judge, every lawyer, every police officer, every court officer is outside and on their own when you know how to bring in the fact that your Prime Minister has given you back your constitution. We are using, for the purposes which are being tested, Section 80.1 of the Criminal Code Act 1995, the security of the Commonwealth. We have an obligation and a right to report a crime to a police constable of a state. If you are in treason and you are acting against the security of our country, the penalty is life in prison. That means a judge, it means a policeman, it means a lawyer. Because if they do not stand under the Prime Minister, they are in the wrong place. And that's what we did with Judge Bochner on the 8th. I charged her under Section 80.1. She cannot stand under and rule a courtroom under the King's Crown and the Lion and the Unicorn without a state governor. No state has a governor to issue a piece of paper called a writ to have an election. I am on the ABC website stating there are no valid elections, period. And when we understand this, we've got to stop this madness, and this is what this is about. We're fighting for our human rights. I say this almost on a weekly basis. I do 3 and 4 Zooms a week. I've got to get people to understand we have our Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 given back to us. That means at Section 12 of that Commonwealth Constitution Act, a governor must issue the writ for a Senate election. Penny Wong is not your senator. Penny Wong is not your foreign minister because there is no writ. That's what we're talking about in our paperwork. When we understand this, we have to hold them accountable, and our plan is to have the petition to remove the existing governors and have them replaced with a governor appointed under the King of England. I have no interest or any consideration for the King and his family. I'm only interested. We have our Commonwealth Constitution returned to us. When Anthony Albanese repledged his oath on the 6th of May, 2023, you have a right to say, I stand under the Constitution underneath the Prime Minister. Then we've got the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act. The only charter in this country is in Victoria. That's a statute law. No king, no queen. It's the only charter that says you must give consent to be part of a medical experiment. And all you have to say is, through the Supreme Court of South Australia, I exercise my right to using a law from another state. That's it. That's the power of our system. Then, as you would have heard me in the courtroom, I said to Judge Bochner, you are now invoking the Bill of Rights 1688. You must remove yourself from the court before I exercise my right to call the Australian Federal Police to charge and arrest you for treason. You cannot stand under that crown if you don't have a governor. And she went ahead to make an order 1 hour after we left the courtroom. 1 hour. To show in defiance, she wanted to reclaim control of the courtroom. It's too late. She was charged in front of 45 of you in that courtroom because she broke the law. She broke it, and the 11 sheriffs had to stand down. That's the power of the Bill of Rights that we exercise. We do it. No one else understands it. I'm just telling you what our rights are. Then we've got the United Tribes First Nations peoples copyright claim. This is a thorn in their side. They do not have an answer. They don't know what to do because it's coming at the same time that they want you to vote for the federal national referendum. There can be no referendum if a Supreme Court of South Australia absolutely denigrates and destroys the value of that copyright document, which is registered in Geneva in Switzerland. It's outside their control. We've got the proof that there are no governors for any valid elections anywhere in Australia, which we can prove back to 1980. That means 43 years of fraudulent law and fraudulent elections because there are no governors. Now, we can also prove, because of the election last year, there is no Governor General. He did not sign the writ for the House of Representatives where Stephen Georgiannis and Anthony Albanese do their work. In the House of Representatives, they have no writ. If there's no writ for those two men to be in politics, there is no writ going to be valid for the national referendum. It's as simple as that. The Nuremberg Code, we were the first to talk about this 2 years ago, but it wasn't the right time and the right place. This is our right under international law and treaties to bring back the Nuremberg Code. So, to connect with us, this is our website, educateforprotection.website. And my email address is efpadmin@educateforprotection.website. I will make this presentation available for everybody who wants it. I'm going to go back to Paul and Evie, who did a remarkable job to get so much support for Angela on the 8th of August. We'll make sure anybody can watch this afterwards. We have our pages on social media. We're putting our messages up every day, every single day, because things are moving very quickly. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, Telegram, and LinkedIn. You can take a photo, or I can send you these slides. I'll make sure that I'll give them to Paul and Evie to get this out to everybody. We don't have any more time. So that's the end of my PowerPoint. I'm going to go straight to my first document. So please just give me one moment. This is the incomplete affidavit I've made for you. This is the document. It's all going to be filled out. All you need to do, I'm going to show you, is where you see in yellow, is to type in your name as the lodging party when you are happy. Because I'm trying to make this to fit all the men and women who were attending on the 8th of August as a record of that day. That's it. Nothing more. So this document is not complete. Because of time, it needs more time this evening for me to do this before I can send this out to everybody. You put in your details, and then you've got the other details of the other side. This is the fake name I've got on the screen. The fake name of Stephen Georgiannis, who tried to conceal his name from a court case. This is the depth of the corruption. This judge knew about it. Angela called me yesterday, in fact, late last night, to find and prove the connection is so bad that this judge is deeply involved in criminal activity to steal properties. We will discuss that at another time because I've got to show you the documents. This is the content of your document. You put your name and address, and you are making your solemn affirmation. If any of you do not stand under Almighty God, please remove it. I'm putting down a document that you can change. It'll be a Word document. So if that doesn't fit with you to save questions and emails and trying to get back, if it doesn't comply, just remove it and move on. This is your property when you get it certified by a Justice of the Peace. So I state for the court and for the record that the Supreme Court of South Australia is now in possession of the United Tribes copyright trademark document for the copyright of the trademarked Australian piping shrike contained on the South Australian coat of arms. We're putting it up front and center. This is their first problem. Then we put up, I state for the court the record, the Craig Oldroyd case at the local court at the Northern Territory, still undecided for the past 12 months, about the United Tribes' ownership of the copyright and trademark of the Northern Territory coat of arms. This is a problem they cannot avoid. I'll explain that in more detail on another day. Then I'm going to go straight down to number 4. I state for the court that the Supreme Court of South Australia is operating unlicensed to stealing properties without payment to the Majagi Nation. That's the original nation, but I'm going to change that to all United Tribes for war crimes against humanity. If they steal property under false pretenses, it's a war crime. This is their language, and I'm using their language to do so. If you go any other way, it won't work because they have committed unspeakable crimes by stealing farms, businesses, and homes, thinking that they can get away with this because we are not united. So this has to go to Reece Kershaw, the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police in Canberra, under Section 80.1 of the Criminal Code Act, Security of the Commonwealth. We are using the law. We are doing it correctly. We've done our research, and this is what she was charged for on the 8th. Then I state for the court and the record that another case at Mount Barker, South Australia, in which the applicant is a local government corporation against a ratepayer, in which the judicial registrar, not a judge, not a magistrate, a court officer, did adjourn the case with an order for the applicant, the council corporation, to provide the obligatory governor's writ for a state election for any law to be passed to elevate a council into being a local government. It is unconstitutional and unelected at a referendum. There have been 3 attempts to convert a council into local government. They've all failed. So what did they do? They made themselves local government anyway. And that is a sore point with me because on the 10th and 11th of October, there is the World Smart City Expo, where they're going to tell us why we should be locked down because of climate change. 3 days later, we are expected to go to vote for the national referendum. It's all going to happen in the middle of October. This is why we don't have time. So thank you again before I forget that you are here on a Sunday. I'm extremely humbled and grateful you're here, but this is for everybody to watch at any time. We don't have time to hold this back. It must be shared. Okay. I'll go straight down. There's the claim from the court case in the Northern Territory. I won't go into that. I'm just going to go into what has happened. The purported applicant. I say purported because Angelia is not the applicant in that court case. They falsified the documents to hide Stephen Georgianis, who was making himself out to be the defendant with a fake name. The corruption is beyond words. It is absolutely disgraceful what has happened. So we are saying that this now confirms that Stephen Georgianis must, because he is a legal fiction person who was represented by a lawyer, that Angelia did charge him twice for concealing treason and committing perjury in the courtroom. And he keeps on coming back because the judge and the lawyers are working together. And Angela told me afterwards, because they were scared of you, They took the barrister and walked him through the judge's back door of the courtroom. I had never seen that before. I didn't see it because I was focused on the sheriffs. Angela told me he was escorted through the judge's door. That's how scared they were of you. And no one was charged. No one was manhandled because I said, you will stand down. And they did. This is the delicate situation we have. This brings in the fact that Mark Douglas Murray was using the wrong name compared to the name on the paperwork. If you and I did that, we'd be going to jail. They do this to protect him. We've got the proof. We've got the documents. And that's why we stand on this ground of the fraud. It won't go away. It's going to get worse for all of us. This is now a misnomer. That's a legal word. You cannot use the wrong name. There are court cases of people using false names. I've got this from the federal court rules. What's a rule? It's made up by the judges. It didn't come from the parliament. It's come from the judges. They made their own rules. This proves to you they are not a courthouse. They are a bank. They work separately from the parliament. But we've got the rules. You cannot use a fake name. This is now a question that Judge Bochner had no authority. This is an inter se question. What on earth does that mean? It's Roman law, Latin, for outside of jurisdiction. She has no power. It's gone beyond her hand. But she continued because she had to conceal she is above her head in the corruption and the fraud. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake when I say this, we have the proof. Angela has found the proof. The judge is rotten. She was involved from the beginning to steal that house. And they work closely with the barristers to stealing property, giving the impression of a court case. We don't have any rights left. So this is what we're saying. We have a problem with the Craig Oldroyd case. We've got the international trademark copyright transgressions, and we have the problem with the House of Representatives at Canberra that the Chief Administrator and Chief Justice Chris Kourakis must prove to the people of South Australia that South Australia respects the First Nations people of this land. And they don't. They are the only court I have found that do not put a statement on the website that they respect the elders, the original owners of this land. It is vacant. I've seen it for myself. There's nothing there. But in Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, it's across the bottom of the webpage. This is the problem we are dealing with. There's no structure anymore. Right. So, trying to keep a watch on the clock. This is important. We state on this record that Angela was the only live woman. There are lots of groups out there saying, I'm not the straw man and I'm not this and that. It doesn't work. I got Angela to state it in a statement, which she did read out. She does not consent to necromancy. That is worshipping of the dead. Necromancy is evil. It's satanic. And we don't subscribe to this because that's what they want to treat you as in a courtroom, dead, with your Mr. Smith or Miss Brown as the way that they contact you. This judge actually did call her Angelia because she could not make an issue out of calling her Miss Georgianis. This is what you need to understand. We don't know how this works. We know how they try to trick you to contract with you. So this is important. So Angela made her statement, and you're going to have that statement as an attachment to this document. And all we're doing is capturing to the best of our ability with the limited time we have what happened on that day. That's it. And if you are happy with this document, you take 2 copies to a JP and get them to initial and certify it. They have 2 different stamps. One is the original, and the second is a certification as a copy of the original. That's it. You need 2 copies. Okay. So I make number 11. I'm going to put down what I actually did. This is important that I need to take a little bit more time to review and reconsider what I said. I state for the court and record that Angela's advocate did stand at the bar table. That's the table where you speak to the judge, and did make the statement that the purported judge was concealing misprision of treason charges. Angela charged the judge, the barrister next to her, the reserve judge, and the chief justice, and 94 other people in the court case with misprision of treason on the 21st of October last year, and they've kept it hidden. We are talking 9 months ago. They are continuing as though that never happened. This is the problem, that they think that they can get away with this, not on this case. So we are saying we've charged the barrister twice for perjury, lying in the courtroom, and believe me, they all lie. And I will say this right now for the record. We do not have lawyers in Australia. We do not have judges in Australia. They do not have an oath to the King of England. So people who wish to pay a lawyer, you are giving them a donation because they are worse than me. They are masquerading as something they're not. I actually tell you, I do not want to be called a lawyer. I'm an advocate. And there is no law that says an advocate cannot speak in a courtroom. None. Okay. So we are telling you, we've done the charges, we've used the Section 80 of the Criminal Code Act, and we've used the Bill of Rights to sack the judge. And you all saw it, that she had nowhere to go. I said, I will contact the federal police. You will be arrested because you are now outside. You cannot make an order. But she did. She has now cemented this with the paperwork we have. Right. We've said, if she does not stand under His Majesty, King Charles III, and his heirs and successors, King of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, under the royal seal of the lion, the unicorn, and the crown, she has no standing. She is equal with you. She's level with you, all of you. She is no better than you. She does not have authority. That's why I call her an acting judge, because she's a great actor. That's it. She can't handle that word acting. She wants respect, but she doesn't earn it. And that's why I said, you are standing under the imperial crown. And she actually did turn to look up at the crown and realized she was in the wrong courtroom. And I knew exactly what to say. She could not stand under that crown. This is putting her in treason. So we've got a lot of information here. We're going to talk about Judge Bochner was conflicted, and she contradicted the Premier, who Angela also found was the first Premier in Australia to recognise in the Parliament the First Nations people as the original owners. So she's made a decision against your Premier to make a bad decision, and he has indirectly accepted and recognised the copyright. So this means she has now broken the copyright laws from Switzerland. And her disrespect to acknowledge the First Nations people is now part of this affidavit. So we've got the Supreme Court Incorporated does not recognise the original owners on the website and also in the courtroom. We are now saying the Supreme Court of South Australia is conflicting in its position with the national referendum for the voice. The last point, just to close this off, number 13, as you can see, it's not complete. It's not finished because of time. I apologise. I state for the court, the judge abandoned ship. When you're in a courtroom, as we were, you were not in South Australia. You were in the middle of the deep blue sea. That's called maritime law. We know this now. And it's been confirmed, and lawyers are telling us that that's correct. You do not have any rights when you're in a courthouse. She was charged for Section 80.1 of the Criminal Code Act, and the advocate, myself, did state that he would charge and arrest the judge with the Australian Federal Police if she did not follow this and leave the court invoking the Bill of Rights. She abandoned the court soon after. I actually said, I am closing the contract now that the judge has abandoned ship. And I just have to go through Paul's recording and have this done correctly with the right wording I said, but I did state she has abandoned. I am closing the contract. There is no order that can be made. This is what we're trying to say to you. So this is the affidavit. This is it. It's incomplete, but this is giving you a picture of trying to capture that day. So we move on to the second document. Okay, I won't go through this line by line. I'm watching the clock to try to be mindful that this is a Sunday afternoon and I've got to give you this information and you will get copies. This, as you can see, is the official trademark, copyright trademark document of all the United Tribes. The first person, Darren Tang, the Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, at Geneva, Switzerland. The second is Michael Schwager, Director General of Intellectual Property Australia at Woden in the ACT. This has been done correctly. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go straight down to the letter. Dear Miss Wang and Mr. Schwager, official notice of direction to correct the errors and update the records. Who the true owners are of the copyright and trademark of these native animals and birds. Okay. These are the elders. They're giving their autograph. They've signed their name with their thumbprint, which cannot be reproduced. That's an autograph, which cannot be tampered with. That's how they've done it. This is the Northern Territory. Very quickly, when this man, Craig Oldroyd, went to court against the Northern Territory, they didn't own that coat of arms. The organization called Tibinla, which is an association of all the elders and First Nations peoples, registered the coat of arms for the Northern Territory. This is why they cannot make a ruling. They don't stand under this logo. They haven't paid their copyright because they don't own it. It's been taken possession of. It's their property now. They are running without a head. This is how important this is. I'm going to go straight down to try and find South Australia because of this meeting. Here we go. This is the South Australian coat of arms. Proudly sitting in the centre of that shield is the Australian piping shrike. This is the bird. This document calls it the Sturt's P bird, or the magpie. It doesn't matter. That's what I have found. It is being registered. It's been copyrighted. It's done. The First Nations people of the land known as South Australia have got ownership of that. They don't want your home. They don't want your business. They don't want your farm. They want to say this is the only avenue, legal avenue, we have left before they change everything and say we have lost our property rights for good. So they're the elders who have autographed this paperwork. Okay, I'm going to go straight down to one more. Oh, sorry, here. I can't turn the document around. I apologize. There's the coat of arms for South Australia. It's been given official notice of registration of trademark. It's now a document in Switzerland and in the ACT. Done, completed, finished. Let me go straight down to the most important one of all, which is the Australian government for you to see, just for the purpose of this recording. This is the official notice of registration of the trademark of the logo used by the Australian government in Canberra. The kangaroo and emu have been copyrighted, and it has been taken up and is now possession of the Yanggu tribe who live in southern Sydney. This is where the address is going to. This is important because of the national referendum. This is a problem. So South Australia has a bird, but there are 3 states that have a kangaroo, and this does not matter. We've got the paperwork in front of you. So there it is. There's the document. The Yanggu tribe have ownership, and you can barely see the center of the screen, the kangaroo emu with a star. That star does not represent you or me. It's a corporation. It's not us. Okay. I'm going to go to the next document. No, that's not the one. No, just one moment. Okay, the king. I need to do this very quickly. One of our members in our groups did the research. This has been captured in a PDF. This is the proper way to call King Charles according to the Australian government. The full title of the current monarch in Australia is Charles III, in words, by the grace of God, King of Australia. There's no such thing. The King of Australia is a fraud. It's a copyright issue. It's a piece of paper. This is not referring to that man, whether you like him or not, who lives in Buckingham Palace. His name is His Majesty Charles III in Roman numerals, his heirs and successors, King of the United Kingdom, not the King of Australia. This is the fraud underneath Anthony Albanese. We've got this on our paperwork. All right. Let me see if I can find the other document, which I need to show you. This is the court case. I won't go through the document. It'll take too much time. This is the Craig Oldroyd court case for the ownership of the kangaroos on the Northern Territory coat of arms. South Australia, as far as I'm concerned, according to the Constitution, still has control and authority over the Northern Territory. That's a discussion for another day. We've linked the two because they were together. Western Australia was a separate story, Queensland another story. The centre of Australia, Northern Territory and South Australia were the same jurisdiction. And because of the size, it was divided. And it was called the territory. This is what it is. This is the fraud we're going to uncover. This is the story, that logo in the centre of your screen. The kangaroos are now owned by the native people. The native animals are owned by the United Tribes of the Northern Territory. So there it is, making an affirmation. It's an affidavit, much the same as what I just showed you before. You will have a copy of this to go with your affidavit I just showed you. Okay. I've shown you the royalties problem. I'm going to show you the document that I need to share because I'm telling people if you go to court for a parking ticket or a speeding fine or a COVID issue, take this with you. The ABC, without speaking to me, one word, they sent me one email, took my picture on a camera screen on a video and said, this man advises his clients that elections, rates, and mortgages are invalid. And I can't disagree with it. I stand by every word because there are no elections, there are no writs. The document I didn't show, but I'm going to include for you, will be the South Australian federal election papers, which were not signed by a governor or the Governor-General. They are terribly important. I apologize, I don't have them for this recording. We'll get them to you as part of this package of documents. I'm looking for what other documents I must show you. If you just give me one moment, I'm looking for my open letter. Okay. This is our open letter. Anybody is welcome to take this letter. You can put your name on it and send it to the Commissioner of the Australian Electoral Commission requesting a copy of the writ. The writ is got to come from the Governor-General, David Hurley. And I can guarantee you they will make a problem. They will say it's been delayed. There'll be some obstruction. It cannot be signed by David Hurley because the federal election was signed by a politician and David Hurley was only a witness. If you've ever signed a contract, the person who signs the bottom of the document is the person who closes the contract. David Hurley, Governor-General, Francis Adamson, Governor, never have signed a writ. None. No state elections, no federal elections. They're all in fraud. So this is an open question to the Governor-General, David Hurley, the Commissioner of the Australian Electoral Commission, Tom Rogers, and the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police, Reece Kershaw. So we're saying this is how it works. The Governor-General and the AEC Commissioner and the AFP Commissioner, I write this letter following the announcement by the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, that the Prime Minister has set a date for the Australian electors to follow and comply with Section 128 of your Commonwealth Constitution Act. Mode of altering the Constitution. That's what the referendum is about. It comes from that section. And I can tell you, you cannot have a referendum under this section and not have a Governor-General. You must have a valid Governor-General to issue the paper for us to vote on Saturday, the 14th of October. Okay. We have a question. It took us some time to get the wording right. This beggars the question, if there was no Governor-General to issue the writ for the House of Representatives, including Stephen Georganis, MP for Adelaide, and Anthony Albanese, member for Grayndler in Sydney, who will issue the October 2023 federal referendum for the voice if Governor-General Hurley is again the witness? We know they cannot answer this question. Again, will Ben Morton, a politician from Perth who lost his seat at the last election in May last year, will he issue the national referendum writ for the voice on behalf of the King? You cannot have an election without a Governor-General or a governor. That's one of their most important responsibilities. So this letter is based around how can the Australian elector be summoned to participate and vote in a national referendum on another treasonous writ or without a valid writ. This is our open letter. So here we are, the constitutional crisis. Stephen Georganis, yes, I've got a misspelling there, I'll correct it, has now exposed the Chief Justice and all justices and judges of the Supreme Court of South Australia to a notice of Section 78B of the 78B from the Judiciary Act 1903. What does that mean? We can say if there's a crisis and the King has been attacked, literally, we can stop the court case and we are taking this to every Attorney General and the Federal Attorney General and ask them for an answer, what is going to be done about the attack on the Constitution. Don't worry about the small detail. If you have a question, I would love to hear it in a few minutes' time. We are saying that Chief Justice Kourakis does not stand under the Constitution, the one that Anthony Albanese has re-pledged his oath of allegiance to the King. Orders must be stopped because Judge Bochner made orders without a governor. We've got them in a corner and we just need numbers to get this done. This is for all of our properties, all of our businesses, all of our homes and farms. Right. So to make things worse, we have one of our members who came back to us and said he wrote a letter to the House of Representatives in Canberra asking for the Royal Styles and Titles Act. What on earth does that mean? This law is the law that must be made each time there is a new monarch. That is to say, the Australian people have passed a law recognising King Charles is our monarch. They don't do them anymore. She said, as the clerk of the House of Representatives, in bold, Australia no longer has such an act. When did that happen? We've asked. We're waiting for the answer. This means the Governor-General has no legal mechanism, no machinery, that's the legal terms, no writ for the now defunct, disabled and finished national referendum. The Governor-General did not issue, he only witnessed the writs, the paperwork for an election for the 2022 federal election for the House of Representatives, including Stephen Georganis MP and Anthony Albanese, MP, which are today null and void. This is the document we've already started issuing. So I'm going to give it to all of you. And if you have any questions, we have to catch up again. We just have to come back to Paul and Evie and say, when do we make another date? So the particular and special interest of all Australian electors, we are jointly asking collectively the question, prior to you receiving your Australian Electoral Commission official referendum booklet, now being delivered to post boxes across the country, saying voting's compulsory, we seek a notice of a valid constitutional writ before October 14. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not vote in the last federal election. I will not be voting in this current national referendum because I can tell you they will not be able to provide a writ. They know we have found the mechanism. It's got to be signed by the Governor-General. There's no writ for the governors for the state of South Australia. There's no elections. And it pains me to say it's the same in every state. So there it is. In the interests of truth and transparency, the Australian electors need an answer to this question following the Prime Minister's attendance at Westminster in London on the 6th of May, after he repledged his secular oath of allegiance to the King. His Majesty, that's the correct way. His Majesty, King Charles III, Roman numerals, his heirs and successors, King of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. And it keeps on going. This is just the short version. So on whose behalf are the writs going to be issued? The Labor Party is opposed to the King, the former Queen, the Constitution, and everything to do with England. Unfortunately, you can't destroy history. Australia was formed from the founding of this country, not the occupation, the founding of what we call Australia, under white law, under James Cook, under the laws of England. That's another subject which could take us a whole weekend and more. I'm talking about the referendum right now. So you put down your name and you send this off to the Australian Electoral Commission. So I'm just checking my notes. There is just one document. I might go back to this screen. One document that you need to see. Oops. Let me just go back for a moment. I'll see if I can move this bar across. This is the document. This is the map I show people, and they're horrified because they have never seen it before. Every state and territory on the mainland is now under one political party. I was stopped by showing this map and discussing it in front of a federal member of parliament from the Liberal Party after the New South Wales election made New South Wales the last state to become controlled by Labor. This means the last piece of this puzzle is that Tasmania is going to change colour next election because they're in minority, but what they need is the national referendum to say that everything in this country comes under one political party. That's called socialism. We do not have elections. I will stand on that in a courtroom, as I did, because there is no such thing as a governor to have an election. What we are looking at is what appears to be an election process. So all of these documents I am sharing are with you. I'm coming back to the main screen. Let me just go back very, very quickly. That's the document that I rushed through. I knew I forgot something. Okay. I will see if I can find it in my collection of documents. Okay, here we go. This is a collection of 12 pages, but this criminal charge is 2. It's all done. You don't have to do anything else. This is it. The Magistrates Court Criminal Procedure Rules. That's not coming from the Parliament. These are the rules made by the magistrates of that particular court in Melbourne, the last state in Australia that still has a grand jury available to us. And when we get the first grand jury done over a case, it will apply to you in South Australia and the rest of the country. You've got the judge's name, Chris Kourakis, all done. Here's his email and his address. His accuser's name, Christopher Kourakis, that's his details. Everything else is completed. You don't have to worry about anything on this form. This is the second page. You've got the type of offence, you've got the person who filed in the paperwork. When you are ready, you put your name and address and your signature, and that's where you say you email it to the court, and you email a copy to us at EFP, and then we have a record. This is why we need 500 to 1,000 people supporting us, because we need to tell them that Angela is not doing it on her own. We have now said we've had enough. That's the criminal charge sheet, 2 pages, all done, all completed. We have another document exactly the same for Judge Bochner and the reserve judge, Peter Norman. We changed the details. You don't have to do anything else on that document. So I'll stop the sharing. And Angela, did you have your hand up again? No?
No.
No, okay. So
no, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no other questions, thank you again. We've given you this information. We're going to give you the link for this recording again. We're going to give you those documents, which we give freely. Because of time constraint, we're going to give them all of them to you. The map, the affidavit, the United Tribes copyright document, the court case, and the private prosecution charges. We're sending them to you. So if you've got your details with Paul and Evie, we would love to hear from you, because we need to get this out. Erin, if you're a non-citizen of Australia, you're equal to all of us, because we have no laws. So don't be concerned about being a citizen or a resident or something, because we don't have any judges, we don't have a prime minister, we don't have a governor general. I hate to say it, I've got the proof, and it hurts me to say it, that there are no elections. And thank you, Ida Buttrose, for putting my story up on the website. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're happy with that for the time being, please make sure you send us an email when you get this, or you get in touch with Paul and Evie to get back to us. We are not going to stop. We need help. We need to get this out. And we thank you for being here this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Sunday. Until we hear from you very soon. And Paul and Evie will be getting this out once I finish the affidavit, and you'll be seeing this coming to you. On that note, thank you again. Take care. On behalf of Angela, have a wonderful afternoon. Bye for now.